Right, everyone, we're going to start the husts for the President of LUSU now. So if I could ask all the candidates to come up on stage, please.
Take a seat.
Yeah. Where is Steve?
I don't know. Anyway.
Yeah, anyway.
I'm going to put a tannoy call out.
Hey?
I'm going to put a tannoy call out. Where is he?
Has anyone seen Steve? Stephen Smith, where are you?
He's gone where?
Okay, well, we're going to have to start. Right, so first candidate up is Adam Harrison Henshall. You have 5 minutes whenever you're ready.
Can you all hear me? Well, I've been a student here at Lancaster now for 4 years, as an undergrad, as a postgrad. And my general campaign, the ethos of it, is all informed by my experiences of the university as a whole and how it functions. I would see that the main problem is the university is a very undemocratic organisation. And through this, it means there's a very small group of individuals who make all the decisions. Now, my manifesto is based upon that diagnosis, and based upon the idea that LUSU should counter this in 2 ways. Firstly, it should be as democratic as possible, and secondly, should then use that as a stance on which to confront the university and hope to change the university. Now, if we talk about democracy, it's been mentioned a number of times tonight, and it's a bit of a buzzword, which I imagine some people are drinking to, but democracy isn't just this representative democracy of ticking boxes when someone stands up and gives a speech. Democracy is far deeper than this, and at the moment, LUSU does quite a good level of representative democracy, and I don't think there's too much wrong with that. But what there needs to be, I would suggest, is direct democracy. Now, the way I'd suggest with this is, for instance, with the music degree course cancellation, or cut, has eventually been called an emergency general meeting. Now that is a great space for direct democracy, for people to all get involved in the decision-making process and voice their views. And I think this is something that should happen on every key decision that crops up. At the beginning of the year, we had the bar restructuring, for instance, and there was a meeting called, but unfortunately it wasn't promoted to the right levels and didn't reach quorum. Now, this is no way forward for us to go in promoting a democratic approach. I would suggest that democracy in itself, it comes in 2 forms as well. It isn't just having a meeting and talking about it and joining in with the decision-making process. It's about having a democratic form of action as well. And I think the way we have to deal with the university, rather than release a statement or write an angry letter, is to be far more proactive, whether protests, whether sit-ins and occupations of building, or whether further civil disobedience. Now, these involve large numbers of people acting as one, which I feel is a democratic form of action to take. Now, this use of democracy, both in the decision-making process and in the action, is what I feel is necessary to combat the university and the current direction in which it's heading. Now, that basically informs the bulk of what my manifesto concerns, and the other things that come from it are results of that, whether it be LUSU services, whether it be things like Sugar House, etc. There should be a greater degree of democracy in how we see those institutions being run. Another aspect, which I know is something which many people have gripes with, LUSU living. The amount of horrible anecdotes I've heard is plenty, and there are lots of people who feel very, very strongly about this. What I propose for LUSU living is I suppose, twofold. Firstly, a comparative study which would look at student rent rates and non-student rent rates within Lancaster and then compare that across to other student towns and cities and work from there in order to understand what our rent prices within LUSU Living particularly are doing and how they're operating. And the second, obviously, would be a qualitative approach, where we bring people in, we hear their stories, their anecdotes, and we look to how we can consider moving forward with that and pushing for a far better use of LUSU Living. Now, I think this is incredibly important, not just because we are the student union, we should be giving an approach with our services which is best for the students, but more so in that generally the price of being a student has risen and is continuing to rise. Tuition fees were mentioned earlier on. I also don't feel that that is something we should say is done and dead.
30 seconds.
But at the same time, I think there's lots of things that can be done to reduce the overall cost of being a student. I think some of the other points which I kind of wanted to make were regarding the disciplinary processes of LUSU and how they are at the moment unjust and unfair, and there's some case studies which back this up, though we can't really go into them properly due to anonymity and such. But generally those are the kind of points I want to put across, and I feel it's very important to fight UMAG where we can.
That's time. Thank you. Thank you. And next up we have Christopher Bell.
Hi, I'm Chris Bell. I'm an economics and politics student. I've had a reasonable amount of experience within this union. I'm currently a LUSU councillor. I was formerly chair of FILE JCR. I'm a member of Enactus Lancaster with the Difference Enabled project. And I've also sat on a number of society execs over my 3 years and been an inter-college sports captain. I'm just going to bring you through a couple of my ideas in terms of what I want to bring to the role as president. I think we need to remould LUSU into something that's more applicable to our students. Many people have very negative perceptions of LUSU, and over my time here I've often heard LUSU does nothing for me. We need to open up greater and more extensive forums for engaging our students, engaging opinion across a wider range of issues. We need to extend the use of online forums and potentially hold open public forums for all areas of our union activity, whether it be our commercial service, our representation at academic level, etc. Around half our students are involved in clubs and societies of one description or another, and we should be looking to use this as a platform to further engage our student population in what we do. The way our union's funded is always up for debate and is something that many people find contentious. One of the things I want to look at is what we do with that funding once we receive it. LUSU makes available a great amount of money to its different clubs, societies and interest groups within its union, but as an officer I often found that some of that was difficult to locate or difficult to access, and some of it went unused. I intend to work with the FTO team and also the trustee board to make sure that we're allocating funds in the best way and to make our officers and societies aware of what is out there and what the procedures are to retrieve that money. Move funding towards areas where we are constantly short of finance and potentially away from areas where we constantly run a surplus. We need to be a proactive union. Proactive seems to have become a buzzword for this hustings, but as a group we're very good at reacting to things once they've occurred, particularly the way that we've reacted once we've been aware of what's happening with the music degree scheme. But we need to be involved in talks with the university and other bodies at a much earlier stage. We have a lot of student representation as a union, university level committees, but we need to better utilise that to make our voices heard at a much earlier stage. We are an evolving institution. LUSU is undergoing a lot of change this year, particularly with its bylaws and its constitution. Some of these changes are going to be undoubtedly for the better and massively improve our union. Others that we've already heard tonight have been more controversial to certain groups. We must continue to review these changes that we've made over the next year, continually look at what the results of these changes are to assure that we've made changes for the best reasons and they best fit our union and have not been detrimental to the way that we operate. Finally, I think we should be an honest union. I think it's important to be honest and open with our students, and I think this is something that we don't always achieve. We should work hard as an institution to listen to the opinions of different groups and our students' body as a whole, to make sure that we're representing our students in the correct way and make sure our student officers have the best support to fulfil their roles. Most importantly, we need to make sure that we provide honest expectations to our students and our stakeholders. That doesn't mean we shouldn't be optimistic in what we try to achieve as a union, but we shouldn't promise things that even we ourselves don't necessarily believe that we're able to achieve. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And next up we have Joel Pullan.
Hello everybody. I'm Joel Pullan and I'm running to be your next LUSU President. I was Cartmel College President last year. I've held 3 CCO positions and I'm currently the Education Cross-Campus Officer and the elected Student Representative on University Council. In and out of these roles, I've sat on numerous union and university meetings and I've made many exciting contributions to LUSU, such as being the elected student who took part in the meetings for the new LUSU space, being part of the first delegation to China with the LUSU Involve International Opportunities, and I've just helped written a motion to defend the arts at Lancaster. Through these, I feel I've built up the necessary leadership and teamwork qualities which this role entails, and if I was elected, I'd focus on 3 broad themes. Firstly, providing a strong voice and mouthpiece for our students. Secondly, allowing student input on all union activity. And thirdly, providing a continuously improving, consistently high-quality service for our students. But what do they mean? Well, first and foremost, one criticism I have of LUSU right now is that the role of the President is spread far too thinly across many vastly different areas of our union, from environment and ethics to employability. I feel that now these roles have been moved to more suited officer positions, it enables more time for the President to tackle the most immediate issues head-on, such as rent inflation, defending the arts, and the preservation of a diverse and distinct collegiate system. I would ensure that any large issues are dealt with effectively, dedicating more of my time to student consultation and effectively fighting for students' rights in UMAG, Senate, and University Council. And I feel that because I currently sit on Senate and Council, it's given me an unrivaled understanding into how these bodies work and should be dealt with. However, as well as providing a strong voice in these important forums, I will also encourage students to get involved in the fight from a grassroots level, much like the way we did with the counselling service. Students should be involved and engaged from the offset to make them understand that they're all part of a 12,000 strong voice and a force to be reckoned with. Secondly, I fundamentally believe that every student should be equally represented and are given the same opportunities when it comes to LUSU. As President of Cartmel, I knew and understood the importance of supporting and representing the students in my college. This should apply to every area of our union, and I would push for student activity and student input on all LUSU activity. I feel this would allow students to be better represented through a two-way conversation of what they expect LUSU to be. This would include focus groups on LUSU Living, Sugar House, commercial services, opening up education forums, EWD forums, welfare and community forums, to allow any student to come forward, have a voice and bring policy. And I've seen that in action with Education Forum. I'd also want regular student staff meetings with LUSU Involve in Green Lancaster. A major change to our student demographic comes in the form of internationalisation, and with the university's plan of achieving a 50-50 ratio of home to international students, we must ensure that every student not only has access to our events, services and support, but are equally represented in a vibrant and diverse set of officers. Another area of interest is how well and fantastically hard working the new postgraduate board is, but I want to know whether they feel they're receiving the support that they need. I would undertake a very small review to assess whether things are improved with the new structure. Finally, I feel we are in times of rapid and large-scale change in our union, university and nationally, caused by our own constitutional review, a new top-level management at the university who seem very focused on knee-jerk reaction changes without consultation, and the uncertainty of the higher education sector as a whole. We must ensure that the changes that have happened and that will happen work for our students, and we must ensure a sustainable union in turbulent times. My focus this year is to provide a consistent, quality service to all our students through our activities, events, services and outreach. We've got to ensure that the new full-time officers in their new or adapted roles work well and be aware that any constitutional changes are implemented smoothly through better communication and consultation with students on what they want our future union to look like. I must also be aware of the university's strategic plan and how LUSU feeds into this process. I feel that I would continue to be a critical friend of the university, challenging them on absolutely any issue that affects students, but also supporting them on their international expansions and the turn to a more eco-friendly campus, etc. So if you want a president that can provide a strong voice, who's not afraid to challenge the university, who will create opportunities to mobilise each and every student on this campus to fight for the issues that concern them, if you want a president that will support each and every student in our demographic,
15 seconds.
allowing input on all of our activity, and if you want a president that will strive to ensure a sustainable but continuously improving union for all students to benefit from, then I urge you all to vote Joel Pullan, number 1 for LUSU President. Thank you.
Time. Thank you, and finally we have Matt Jones.
Can everyone hear me at the back? Awesome. Hey everyone, I'm Matt Jones and I'm running for President because I believe I have a balance of experience. I have seen the union from a variety of different perspectives, and from my experiences I know there are barriers that members face when getting involved. I have served as a LUSU officer, I have worked in societies and with them as their representative on LUSU Council, and I have taken a year in industry. I believe that balance is essential to understanding the reasons why students engage with our union and why they don't. I feel my strength comes from being an everyday student with everyday issues at heart, and I firmly believe this union needs a leader who understands you and puts your issues at the top of their to-do list. I want to talk to you about some of the issues that I feel are important to our students. Firstly, I want to make LUSU's democracy and finances clearer. The whole thing needs to be much more accessible to the student body. In terms of democracy, councils are not widely advertised on officers to observe and make their voice heard. I would like to see the councils opened up, and I'll work to ensure that students know when they are, what they are for, and what work they do. Additionally, union policy isn't common enough knowledge. Parts have recently been put online, but students will not scour the LUSU website for something they do not know exists. I would use the full range of union media to widely publicise policy and get feedback. In terms of finance, I want to open up the union so students can see exactly where their money is being spent, and to make it easier for our JCRs to access the funds that they need. The current system of finance reserves makes it difficult for students to pinpoint exactly where their money is spent. So to improve transparency, I would consolidate into fewer, larger reserves, making it more student-focused and easier for students to get funding for initiatives. The second issue I want to look at is getting back to better officer representation. When I first joined university, I had loads of contact from my JCR in Pendle. It's that sort of ethos that I want to encourage as president. Representation is key to being a decent officer, and it needs to be a constant process of going out there and talking to students, rather than students just hearing about officers at election time. All of the candidates who have spoken today have been dedicating their time this week to talking to students in the square or going along to student group meetings, and I passionately believe that this should not end when the FCO team is elected. We also need some kind of accessible database that students can go on to check who their officers are and what they are responsible for. I want to see an online space where students can actively see what projects every officer is working on and where they are up to with them. Moving on, I want to see a more proactive union that fights for our degrees. In the last few days, an emergency general meeting has been called on the removal of the music degree at Lancaster, and I urge everyone to attend. It's really important that LUSU is taking these steps to engage our students with the latest developments on this issue, but I can't help but feel that this was too little too late. This issue has been on the cards for a while now, and the student media was fantastic in its coverage, but the lack of student awareness is disappointing. This union should have been communicating more openly with the wider student body and kick-starting the campaign way before it did. I would also be pushing for the university strategy to protect the existence of a full range of degree schemes, as I believe a university of this calibre should have a full complement of courses for its students. In the future, I want LUSU to be the first one commenting on issues relevant to students and fighting their corner. Finally, I want to talk about LUSU's commercial services. Every student at this university, no matter how engaged they are, has some kind of relationship with this aspect of the union, whether that's buying stuff in Central, renting through LUSU Living, or going to Sugar House at weekends. With the changes to the FTO remits, your FTOs now have a much larger role in these, but there is no reason in my mind why students cannot be more involved than we currently are. I want to make sure there's more consultation so we feel it's our service that we own. Taking LUSU Living, we've all heard the stories about tenants going without hot water for days. LUSU Living, as a business, is still in its infancy, and I'd like to review how it operates, as the union needs to improve response times. On the other side of commercial services, students this week have been talking to me about what they want from the shops and the sugar house. I feel students should feel they have a vested interest, and as president, I would ensure the FTO team are bridging the gap and collating feedback from students. Overall, my priorities are to make sure our students have confidence in the FTO team to represent them and fight their corner. We need to make sure students know who we are and what we're doing, and they need to be able to get involved at any level, in any capacity, at any time. If you agree that I'm the best person to achieve that, and if you agree with my ideas, vote Matt Jones for your LUSU President, and I will make it happen. Thank you.
Okie doke, let's go. Questions from the floor. Right, Paul, Becky, Hannah, Charlie, Simon, Anderson.
Is it on? No. Thanks to all the candidates for making very good speeches, and thanks to everyone, all candidates. You've all spoken of how good you are, as you expected, and you've certainly talked the talk. I've sat on University Council for with the last two LUSU presidents, and I've seen how one of them walks the walk and the other one doesn't. Steve is the one who walks it. I'd like to know how you would go beyond just talking it to all the students here today and beyond, and how you would actually, and give me an example how you have stood up to the uni and made your voice heard, and how you would do that as president if you were to be elected.
Thank you very much. Just a reminder to candidates, can you make sure that you speak in right into the mic, please? And can that question go to Adam first?
Well, I suppose in terms of standing up to the university, I did launch the political magazine Lancaster to Houston, which unfortunately went the way of Whistleblower and struggled to continue its funding stream. But nonetheless, that was in my capacity at the time, the way I felt was most effective to give critique of the university and its practices. And we published a lot of really good articles, and we had some feedback from certain more powerful members of the university who I assumed would never have read it, but it turned out they had. And so we're very pleased with that. And yeah, I think that would be a particular example of where I've tried from a position where I wasn't in a role that was geared to it. It was off my own back and something I thought needed to be done, and so I went forward and went for it.
Thank you. And next to Chris, please.
I think for anyone that was in attendance at Union Council or reads the minutes, that I tend to debate on points that I really believe in, I think affect our students. I'm always open to launching in terms of making sure that all opinions are looked at before any decisions are made in terms of what we do. In terms of walking the walk, while I sat on election subcom as FAR JCR chair, we looked a lot at how we could further engage students who, particularly from minority groups when we first joined the JCR, who typically had a lower turnout. And towards the end of my time on subcom, we launched a campaign during Freshers Week to make sure that the new freshers and the electorate knew how to use the voting system and make sure that we had a reasonable level of engagement.
Thank you. And next, can that go to Joel, please?
Yeah, I mean, I think we all kind of know now that Steve does definitely talk the talk, no matter what people think about what he says. From my own personal experience of sitting on Senate for over a year and being the student representative on University Council, I know it's a very, very intimidating atmosphere for the best of us, but I have tried to speak out, and I have on several occasions in both meetings, you know, stood up for students and what I think. So I do think that does show to quite a large extent that I am prepared to talk the talk.
Thank you. And finally to Matt, please.
In terms of the example of when I've studied at university, the one that's coming brightest to my mind is in first year when I attended the protest about the rising fees. To me, that was an example where you were directly talking to the university and expressing your opinion about an issue that obviously we all hold very close. Something else that I'll add in terms of walking the walk. In all of my officer roles, I tend to put them, unfortunately, before my degree. And I put absolutely 110% into everything that I do. So in my mind, I'll be there to represent students and I'll be ensuring that I do that and I will deliver.
Thank you. Next question is from Becky, please.
This question is just directed to Adam. I didn't quite understand when you talk about this new concept of democracy, how you were going to implement that. And you mentioned civil disobedience, and I think that just purely won't work. I think students have way too much to lose with £9,000 fees and their degree in the job market. I don't think that any student really would be civilly disobedient for a cause, so I wondered how you would implement this new democracy.
Well, it's interesting to say that no student would be civilly disobedient for a cause. I think that's maybe a pessimistic view. But nonetheless, I think in terms of the idea of democracy, it wasn't no new concept of democracy. It was merely an emphasis on direct democracy rather than representative. So instead of the democracy process ending when you tick a box and you're hoping that person comes back and maybe ask you a question sometime in the future, direct democracy would be more you are particularly engaged, you are directly involved with the decision-making process and preferably with the actual action that comes of it. For instance, like a protest, where you are involved in the action against the university. As an example of civil disobedience, though, sit-ins and occupying kind of vice-chancellor's offices or whatever would come under that kind of remit of civil disobedience. I know Sussex University are doing that at the moment, and they've had a really successful time there with that one. And I think that's an example which wouldn't lead you any hot water after university.
That's
yeah.
Thank you. Hannah is the next question. Yeah. Laurie, the next question is Charlie, who's...
this is to all candidates. As a president, you're going to come up against, let's be honest, a great deal of criticism. How do you intend to deal with these criticisms? Are you going to censor them, as some candidates have? Or are you going to talk to these people about their issues? Like, what's your view on this? Cheers, thanks. Bye.
Okay, so can that go to... Thank you, everyone. Can that question go to Joel first, please?
Yeah, we are a representative democracy. I've got my own personal views, everyone has, but at the end of the day, if students turn around and disagree with what I think, then I've obviously got to take that into account and take their ideas on board. I think there's absolutely nothing wrong with admitting that you might have got a decision wrong. Hopefully I won't have to do that, but there's absolutely nothing wrong with doing that as long as you are representing the students that have, elected you, because you are their voice.
Thank you. And next to Matt, please.
Throughout my time being involved in the union, I've held a variety of leadership roles. I think the one that's probably most applicable here is when I was Extrav organiser for Pendle. I mean, any Extrav organisers in the room will know that you face a great deal of criticism when you're organising Extrav. You can't seem to do anything right. My approach to dealing with such criticism is to communicate with individuals one-on-one. I always find it a more direct way of getting feedback, and most of the time I come out completely supportive.
Thank you. And next to Adam, please.
Well, I'm doing a philosophy master's, so I'm always up for a bit of conceptual or theoretical debate, and being challenged on whether my stance is agreed on. And no, yeah, it's all that needs to be said, I think.
Okay, thank you. And finally, Chris.
Given that one of the big things that I'm trying to convey in my manifesto is the idea of being a lot more honest with our students, I think criticism of something that I've done if I was in the role is something that you've got to take and be honest about it. If you've made a mistake, the best thing you can do from that is learn from it and make sure that you continue to represent the students in the best manner you can.
Thank you very much. Can I just remind candidates at this point to not talk to each other when, sorry, not candidates, the audience, not to talk to each other when candidates are speaking. Thank you. Right, this next question. Right, this next question is from Charlie.
Hi guys, and yeah, congratulations for getting so far this late. I think, yeah, you've all shown sort of an element of leadership, of a close, sort of tight-knit, well-functioning team is going to sort of be the most important part of your role. And I think it can define a great president or a terrible president if your team don't function well. I think not only as you've got your 5 FTO officers that you're going to be working with on a day-to-day basis, but also as chair of the trustee board as well. Both of these, you're going to sort of need to give them a sort of almost like make them part of the family. I'd just like to know what your sort of ways in which you can achieve that to ensure that the 6 of you can work efficiently and for the best for the union.
Thank you. And can that question go to Matt first, please?
For this one, I'll probably take an example when I was on my year out last year, and I had to work with a team of section managers who I was working with, but then also a team of, it was a management placement, by the way, a team of section managers and then a team of staff on the floor as well. And I found the easiest way was just being friendly, making sure that I was always approachable, like that any of the staff, all the section managers or anyone else in my store could come up to me and just chat to me about regular things, but also if they had issues, then they could come up and talk about them. And just showing an interest in what they were up to and what was going on. I mean, that's important for the president anyway. We have the broad-ranging remit. We're supposed to know everything that's going on within LUSU. So keeping communication open with officers, I think, is absolutely key.
Thank you. And Adam, please.
Well, in terms of leadership things, whether it be from way back in the day when I used to be a lifeboatman and led rescue missions to save people's lives, throw that one out there, to even kind of more recently in kind of roles as assistant dean and other kind of things. I think it's very important when you're in a leadership capacity to recognise the skills of everyone around you and the input of everyone around you, not take yourself too seriously as a leader in a kind of dictatorial manner. And I think that would be the way in which I would hope to kind of cultivate a good team environment by recognising that everyone has their own skills and appreciating them for that, allowing them the input and the space in which they can flourish.
Thank you. And Chris?
I think in terms of making sure that you're an effective leader of a group of people, you've got to be honest with the team that you're working with. If you're honest with them, they'll be honest with you, and it provides a better working environment for you and everyone else that you're working with. And I think I've always sought after leadership roles, and I think I've learnt from errors along the way so that I've become an effective leader, or at least I'd hope that I have.
Thank you. And finally to Joel.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully I have proven myself as a leader, being Cartmel College President. We won the JCR Exec of the Year, and that's really a testament to, you know, what a fantastic team we were. And I am a massive team player. I think no matter what team you're in, there'll always be disagreements, but as long as you have frank discussions around this, I think things will be absolutely fine. I've got the ability to lead, but I've also got the ability to listen and take things on board.
Okay, thank you. Next is Simon Clark, and then we're going to Sun. Got Erica, got Paul.
Right. My question's quite similar to Charlie's one, actually. Part of the role of president is to hold a weekly meeting with the 8 college presidents. I'd just like to get each of your opinion on what your role is with those 8 college presidents, and indeed beyond with the student body as a whole.
Okay, and can that go to Adam first, please?
Well, I'm a very big supporter of the college system, and I've written an article or two in praise of it. I mean, at the moment, I'm on my SCR as assistant dean, and also I'm an elder statesman of the bar sports teams. And though I haven't met maybe every single one of the college presidents, I would look forward to working very closely with them and talking with them and enabling the JCRs to be a huge part of the way LUSU continues to operate and how decisions are made, and to keep consultation going well.
Thank you. And Chris?
I think one of the big things is to make sure that JCR presidents don't feel that they've gone to a meeting to be told what they're doing for the next week. I think this meeting should be used as a way of making sure that JCR presidents are aware of what is happening in terms of the union and the direction that we've been taking and things that have evolved over that week, but also for JCR presidents to feed into myself or the president's role and make sure that we're fully understanding what their aims and objectives are, and if they've had any problems with what they've been doing over the last week.
Thank you. Joel?
Yeah, I've been fortunate enough to be in the President Committee when it was led by 2 different LUSU presidents. So I've seen that on one side it can be quite an informal meeting, but on another side it really does play a massive part in sort of discussions around things that are affecting all of the colleges. And I think when it's utilised properly, it can be a really important meeting where, you know, presidents can exchange like best practice surrounding like anything from events to campaigns, anything college-based like that. But it also gives a good opportunity for the college presidents to come together and voice the opinions of the students they all represent.
Thank you. And to Matt?
I absolutely love the college system. The way I would use PresCom is the presidents know what's going on within their own JCRs and their own colleges. In terms of representation, they are representing their JCRs and their colleges and a huge number of people. I would use them to find out what issues are being talked about, to see what's going on, if there's any way that like the FTOs and the CCOs can be supporting them more. But also, as things already been touched on, PresCom is a huge opportunity for the presidents to communicate with each other, let each other know what events and what kind of stuff's happening, and just help each other out overall.
Thank you. Next question is from Sun.
Hi. I think we don't have to emphasize how important and how huge the internationalization is now happening in the university. We know this year the roles of the FTOs have been improved a little bit, and I say that the internationalization might be a little bit like despaired in the role of the FTOs. As a president, what experience or knowledge or how your desire is to not ignoring the international students related issues and the internationalization, and also to increase our quality of internationalization that could make our university to return top 200 or then fight for top 100.
Okay, thank you. And can that go to Chris first, please?
I think, as you mentioned, there's no doubt the importance that internationalisation is playing as the university, but also as a students' union. And I think one of the key things that we've got to do is to make sure that we provide a culture where international students feel at home at our university and within our college system. I presided on JCRs over events such as File Goes Global, which were a great experience in terms of culture sharing, both between UK and other international students experiencing other people's cultures. And I think with the university's continued expansion globally into campuses in other countries, I think it's something that we need to look at to make sure that we're providing for our international students. And I think the formation of the International Students Association, which we've been waiting for some time now, will be a good way to make sure we can achieve this.
Thank you. And Joel?
Yeah, I think you said 3 words there: experience, knowledge and desire. Experience-wise, I was on the JCR when we first established the international officer, and they've been absolutely brilliant in engaging sort of the international population, but I'm not just going to put them all under one big sort of broad umbrella of international students, because there are many international students that are really quite engaged, but there's some that are quite disengaged, and that's what we need to work on. We need to understand that every international student is different as well. Knowledge-wise, I'm going to say that when I went out to China and when I went to the campus, or the location where the new campus is going to be built, I did get quite a firm understanding of the role of, you know, international expansion. I don't think it's really realistic that even with international expansion to, say, China, we'll get into the top 100 universities, but it will definitely help. And the ISA needs to be set up as soon as possible to ensure representation.
Thank you. And to Matt, please.
Okay. In terms of experience, I'm going to use my experience as an everyday student, just from communicating with other students on my course who are international students and hearing about some of the problems that they face that a UK student might not typically face. It's within the President's remit that all students receive an equity of treatment across the board, but I'd make sure, as President, that all issues that international students specifically are facing are picked up. I mean, the International Students Association has now been mentioned again. Something I'd like to see with that is the use of societies as well, to make sure that there's a full coverage of representation. So international students that don't necessarily get involved in the college side might get involved in the Islamic Society or the Chinese Society, and that's a great way of using those on the International Students Association, finding out what kind of issues they've got. But yeah, I'll be making sure that all the International Students Association gets set up as soon as possible so we can start using it to represent students.
Thank you. And Adam?
Well, I think I mentioned an off-the-cuff comment in the Bailrig interview that I hadn't seen a single poster in any language other than English for these FDO elections. I think that symbolises the way in which we are having a degree of exclusion to international students. I'll reiterate again, the ISA, incredibly important move, and definitely should be done. Though I think in terms of our expansionist ideas of university, subtext 97, I think, mentioned how the university assured us no one was harmed in the setting up of new campuses over in China, and later in subtext 99 or 100, I think there was an article talking about how actually, oh wait, no, there had been damage done to people in the setting up of this. I think we have to assure as a student union that when our university has these expansionist goals and aims, that it does so in a responsible manner, and that students in those universities also gain representation.
Thank you. I'm going to take a question from Twitter now. Music cuts have been mentioned, so what are the candidates' opinions on the arts and their place in university degrees? If we can first go to Joel, please.
I made a bit of a slip-up on Bailrig last night, if you were listening. The arts are absolutely fundamental to Lancaster, I feel. The university and their strategy doesn't quite agree with that, I wouldn't have said. But I honestly believe that education is a right, and if you are studying arts at Lancaster, then your course should be protected. I think it is such a shame that music has gone, and I'm even more upset that it wasn't sort of got rid of through the proper democratic structure of the university, and I think that's absolutely ridiculous how some students have been treated. So yeah, I think the preservation of the arts is so critical to this university and a lot of students in it.
Thank you. And to Matt, please.
Okay. I say this as a fourth-year management student. The management school is amazing. I love my course, but I don't believe this university can claim the title of a top university unless we offer a full complement of all of the degree schemes that our students want to do. I mean, just using my experience as a cross-campus societies officer, Lancaster Music Society is one of the biggest. There's obviously a market for music there because students are obviously engaging with music either through their degree or through extracurricular activity. I have good friends on the music course. I absolutely don't think it should have been scrapped.
Thank you. Adam?
Well, I did my undergrad in philosophy and sociology, and I'm doing a Masters in Philosophy, and I think I've seen, as much as anyone else I suppose, apart from these music students, of the shrinking of Lancaster's emphasis on arts and humanities and social sciences across the board. You look at the merger of PPR, politics, philosophy and religion, and that was a shrinkage, obviously under Wellings, into reducing the role the arts and humanities play. And I think it's a very important thing to back, and Lancaster was founded on liberal arts being an important thing. And I think education isn't just something that should be seen as something that might be vocational, help you get a job. Education is a beneficial thing in and of itself. And the quicker we forget that, the faster we'll go downhill as an institution.
Thank you, and to Chris.
I think you just have to look at the amount of events and things that we run as a students' union on campus and in and around the university shows the importance of the arts to us as an institution. And I think the way the university have gone about this change was fundamentally wrong. I don't think that the degree scheme should have been scrapped, is my personal view. But I'm more offended by the way the university's gone about this manoeuvre and effectively not consulted the student body who their primary customers. They're providing an education service that we're consuming, and we shouldn't therefore not be consulted over issues such as courses.
Thank you. Next question is from Jack, please.
Can you each give me one skill that makes you perfect to lead this students' union and one specific example of where you have applied that skill in practice?
To Joel first, please.
Okay. I would say teamwork, because I've been part of a JCR, over 2 JCRs. I think that is a key sort of skill to have, especially when you're leading a team. You know, it's not just about leadership, it's about teamwork skills as well. Bringing together your group and bringing forward ideas to pass on to the students, as well as listening back to them. So I would say teamwork, definitely.
Okay, thank you. And Matt?
I suppose leadership isn't allowed. For a skill, I'd probably pick, probably not your typical skill, but representation, like voicing what others are saying. For a specific example, when I was cross-campus societies officer, I had to represent over 200 societies on LUSU Council, and I did that by making sure that as often as I could, within like physical constraints, I went along to meetings, chatted to them informally, just made sure I got some opinions off them and took them forward.
Okay, thank you. And Adam?
I suppose the willingness to push forward with something new. I think I started my own society, the Humanist Society. I started up my own magazine, Lancaster to Houston. And when I was in college, I started my own radio station. And if there's something I think is an important thing that would be beneficial, then I do look to go out and get it started and go for it. And I'd like to think that given what I'd hope to do in the role, that would be something that would be beneficial.
Thank you. And Chris?
I think personally it's an ability to see things from another perspective or another viewpoint. I consider myself someone that's willing to and able to sit down and see things from lots of different perspectives, even though if I personally have my own opinion, at least attempt and try to understand where other people are coming from so as to best construct a debate or an argument for why I believe it's one way or the other.
Thank you. Now to Charlie Stevenson.
Hello. Okay, this is for everyone. Is there something that Steve didn't do during his time as president that you feel he should have been able to achieve and that you could be able to achieve in your time as president?
Okay, that goes to Matt first, please.
I'm going to kind of answer this a slightly different way. I think something that Steve did that was absolutely fantastic was focus on making this union a political union again, bringing forward policies, all that kind of stuff. Something that I'd probably focus on slightly differently, and this is possibly due to my academic background, is making LUSU's commercial services a lot more accessible. Currently, I don't believe students get enough consultation in them, there's not enough involvement, and I don't feel we get much involvement at all in the decision making, so that's probably what I would pick.
Okay, thank you. Adam?
Though I think Steve's done a great job, I think the bar restructuring is something that maybe could have been hit on earlier. I know it was obviously kept under wraps somewhat for a while, and it was carried through very quickly. But there maybe could have been a stronger stance against it and a stronger push towards alternative ways the university could have gone about things without scrapping so many jobs and taking the bars away from the college system in the way in which they did. And there could have been alternatives to go with, and it could have been something which maybe we could have fought back on a little harder.
Thank you. And Chris?
This isn't something that Steve's particularly failed to do as president, but something I think we failed to do as a union over the last couple of years is to really grab the engagement of our students to a much broader level. I think we've put in lots of effort into trying to achieve this, but I think it's something that we still struggle with on a general level. I think we find it hard to voice our opinions over things that are applicable to the students that we're trying to represent the best.
Okay, thank you. And Joel?
Yeah, I mean, the LUSU strategy says that we have to be responsive to the changing needs of our students. And I'd say, I know it's not directly his fault, but I've said it before, but the International Students Association needs to be set up, and it should have been set up by now under his leadership, because we really haven't been responsive to the needs of these international students who are at the moment very underrepresented in like sort of LUSU officer roles.
Okay, thank you. Right, we're going to Steve next. Steve, do you still have 4 questions? Could you ask 2 of them now and 2 of them later?
Yeah, sure.
Is that all right?
Yeah, that's absolutely fine.
Thank you.
First, just want to say all very, very fair criticisms of me and my job there. Thank you. I didn't want to focus on questions that have already been asked, and I've got plenty of questions, so I'm going to try and limit them down. My first one is, NUS, 30k a year, is it worth it?
Okay, that goes to Adam first, please.
The NUS President's up.
Affiliation to the NUS is 30k a year.
No, I would suggest that the NUS is something we should be involved in hugely. However, the NUS itself, as I mentioned, I suppose in the Bailrug one, the recent protest, which was great that LUSU took us down there, but the NUS completely failed to make that what it could have been and should have been. But I feel that membership of the NUS or affiliation to the NUS is an incredibly important thing and something we should attempt to stamp ourselves onto far harder.
Thank you. And Chris?
I think the NUS and our involvement with the NUS is vitally important to everything we do, but at the minute I'm not necessarily seeing that they are providing the value for money that they should from what we're paying to them. I don't think that's something that suggests that we should by any means ignore or leave like our affiliation with the NUS. I think it means that we should be working harder to get value for what we've put into it.
Thank you. And Joel?
Yeah, I do think it's worth it. The NUS provides so many resources that we can take and, apply to our union. From a personal point of view, I've been to a couple of NUS conferences now, and they've given me such a sort of broader insight into not just LUSU, but the national issues as well. And I don't think we should sort of lose sight of that necessarily. If anything, it's the knowledge and experience we gain from these conferences that we need to pass down to the students at Lancaster.
Thank you. And Matt?
Yes, I do believe it's worth it. I think it's really important that we're supporting, and all the unions within the NUS are supporting each other in going after national issues that are affecting students. But at the same time, as Joel just mentioned, there are resources that they make available to us, and if there's issues on campus where I think we need their support, in theory we should be able to get it. Whether that's happening in practice, we can work on, but I don't think we should be considering losing the affiliation because of that.
Okay, thank you.
Excellent, thank you guys. My next one is the LUSU strategic plan, which I'm sure you've all read. Brilliant bit of bedtime reading for anyone that's interested. I'd like to hear your current thoughts on the plan, what you think the key acid tests are and how we'll know when we've achieved what we've set out to achieve as an organisation, and if you were to refresh it next year, what would you change?
That's to Joel first, please.
One of the points I'll talk about is space, how 91% of students said that they feel that they need a better space to meet other students. I'd say, sitting on the meetings about the move to Pullan, West A and B, that it's a definite improvement, but I would really love to see the university actually build a purpose-built Students' Union building. So in that respect, I think we are definitely getting there, but we need to now push it forward, and maybe in a few years' time, we will be on the way to having our very own purpose-built building.
Thank you. And Matt?
In terms of my thoughts on the plan, I believe in some areas we are on track, but when I was reading it, I thought there were some areas where actually we're not quite so on track. I mean, just taking one of them out from what I've got in front of me, one of the first points and the big differences we'll see by 2014, which, let's bear in mind, is only like 10 months away, is you will know who we are, what we do, and what we stand for, quote unquote. This actually forms part of one of the points of my manifesto, and I don't think we're at that point yet. I think some of our officers are still faceless and nameless, and that fits in with my idea around having an online space, not just saying who the officers are and a little picture of them in a job description, but saying what real projects they're currently working on and where they're up to with them. I think it's vitally important. And I'm really sorry, but I've forgotten the second and third parts of your question. If I was going to refresh it, I'll take that one first. I think it is very broad ranging. I mean, it says it itself, it's very broad ranging. I'd probably try and make that a lot more focused. I don't think I've got time to answer. Sorry. I'll post it on Facebook.
Next to Adam, please.
I'll reiterate the one about space, actually, because as much as students want more space, Amanda Chetwynd, at least I think it was Amanda Chetwynd, sorry Amanda if you're watching, if you're not, I think she commissioned a report with a private company which looked at, generally across universities, how much space there is per student. And the results of this report was that Lancaster has more space per student than it needs. I've not looked at the methodology, I'm not sure how they quantify this, seems a bit absurd, but at the moment the university is looking at ways that it can essentially reduce that amount of space per student to a more reasonable level. I fear that I would like to see a good balance between getting more space for the union without what seems to be the process at the moment of reducing college space for students. So it's nice to maintain a good balance between college space being maintained and LUSU getting more.
Thank you. And Chris?
I think much of the strategic plan is still as applicable now as it was when it was written, but I think we've failed to get as far towards our targets over the course of the plan as we would have liked. I think one of the big things that we're going to have to look at again is eventually the move into, trying to lobby for the move into a new LUSU purpose-built space that's fully applicable to what we need. But particularly, I think we're not as far on as we would have liked with our student engagement, and it is something that keeps coming up, but we do have to rethink what we're doing and try other ways to engage people, particularly outside of just election time.
Thank you. Right, Steve, we'll save your other questions for later. Erica next. Sorry guys, just to point out, I really do have such a long list of questions, so I'm not going to be taking any more questions other than the ones that I've got written down currently. You're more than welcome to grill the candidates after Hustings has finished.
Gentlemen, you may have observed that you are the third all-male panel that we've seen today. And I'm just wondering what your thoughts are on increasing the diversity of the candidates that feel that they can step forward to volunteer to lead our student union.
Okay, that's Chris.
I think we've all got to look around and say that it is slightly disappointing that we haven't had as diverse a range of candidates as we should. I think the two things we need to look for is we should be encouraging more people to run for roles like this and more people from different backgrounds. When I was first on subcom, we looked at ways to engage minority groups or groups that were disaffected or liberation groups, and make sure that we ran a system where people felt comfortable to engage and to stand for things. And I think there's still work that needs to be done. I think we need to inspire more confidence in people that we work with and people within the union to stand for roles such as this.
Thank you. And Joel?
Yeah, women are definitely underrepresented, no matter how you look at it. I might take a bit of a controversial view, and I think from a personal point of view, I'm not a woman, so please correct me if I'm wrong. I would say it's maybe a little bit patronising to say that women can't stand up and can't go for these positions. I think so many women are confident enough and self-assured enough to run for these positions. It's just actually telling them, go for it, put your name down.
Thank you. Matt?
My point leads perfectly onto that one. Taking the women's leadership workshops that have been done in the last couple of weeks in prep for FTOs, I did wonder when they went up why they've not been happening for quite some time before. It felt a little bit last minute, like right before, or it was happening when nominations were going up, and I don't think that's enough time to get people thinking about it. For me, I'd like to see those kind of things done all year round, but particularly in terms of elections, like in the term running up to elections.
Thank you. And Adam?
I think a couple of good points have been made. Of course, we don't want to patronise anyone by saying that they're underrepresented. I think it's true as well, we've already discussed international students, of patronising them and painting anyone who isn't currently represented well as some kind of other. But at the same time, these invisible cultural boundaries do exist, and there are certain glass ceilings. I think even if we don't want to patronise, to use Joel's term, I think at the same time there still needs to be a lot done in order to encourage, in order to open up these spaces and allow people to break through.
Thank you. Paul is up next. Paul, yeah.
Thanks. As far as I'm aware, the issue of rent hasn't been raised at the moment. As far as I'm concerned, and I've been speaking to a number of people tonight, is that it's gone up at least 20 quid for a week in the last couple of years. And it's a huge issue facing the university. I'm just wondering what you'd do about it, and if Libby lets me, can I make a quick point, very quick, after they've made their speeches? Very quick.
Yes. Okay.
Thank you.
What will you do about rent increases?
Okay, and that's Joel first.
I did touch on it in my hust, but only briefly, because you can only fit so many words into 5 minutes. Rent is definitely a welfare issue because of the financial strain, obviously. But we've also got to consider students' expectations when it comes to paying so much. I think LUSU's role is twofold. I think, firstly, if we improve LUSU living, more students will move off campus to hopefully cheaper residences. Hopefully, this in turn will kind of make the university think, right, these students aren't staying on campus, we need to do something about it. What do these students expect us to do? The second sort of role of LUSU is to go to the university and pressure them and say, why are you raising rent? They've raised it again for Wi-Fi, but I think Wi-Fi, it's a right to study in. You need internet to study and things like that, and I think it's ridiculous how they can try and justify these increases when, to be honest, it's just going to turn around and just bite them on the backside.
Thank you. And Matt, please.
Obviously, over the last couple of years, there's been a lot of refurbishment into the university residences, which is, in part, some of the reasoning for the rent increase over the last few years. I mean, being a fourth year, I've seen them go up step each year. What I'd look at doing, and maybe this is naive of me, but I think it's something we need to try and do. We need to try and work with the university, now that the refurbs are done, to campaign and try and push to get rent tied in with inflation, not above it. I'm sure it's possibly something that's ongoing, and I'll find out about it if I get elected. I mean, there's also a second part of it, which is LUSU Living. It's already been mentioned that LUSU Living prices compared to other private landlords in town, there is a bit of a difference there. But I think we do need to look at it to assess the extent of that difference and the service that we're offering. rent decreases don't happen
10
overnight,
seconds.
but I think there's more that we can be doing to make sure that what students are paying for, they're getting value for.
Thank you. Adam?
Well, I did mention it in my hust, though that could have been a bit clearer, maybe, had it not been off the cuff. But no, my plan for rent is based around, firstly, LUSU Living, and I propose a kind of a two-part kind of study of using first quantitative research and qualitative research and comparative studies and experiences in order to create a better LUSU Living and use that research and study as leverage by which we can create something new. And then if we can improve LUSU Living, then damn it, we should use that not just to hope for the university to change, but to enforce them and encourage them. Because their current contractual system with UPP that they seem to have going, in terms of them making the initial investment and then the university having it after 25 years or however long, sure, it means there's more accommodation being built, but at the moment we don't need to be so expansive, applications aren't as high. I think that's definitely something to be looked at in a long-term review of university policy.
Thank you. And to Chris.
I think, as Joel and a couple of the other everyone's touched on, we need to make sure that LUSU Living's providing a value for money service from our end. But I think we also need to lobby the university quite severely over its rent inflation. There's definitely not been a reflective increase in the quality of service you get on campus compared to the amount that rent has been inflated. And in a time where finances are at some of their most tense for many of us in this room, these severe increases in cost, which are well and above the rate of inflation in the UK, need to be first and foremost justified. And if they can't be justified, we need to try and find ways to at least curtail some of these increases.
Thank you. Yep.
Your response, particularly to Matt, you're not naive in thinking that we could limit it into inflation. I'd just like to say, whoever is elected, I hope that you would come along to a forum that I'm planning, along with the City Council and my fellow student council here, along with LUSU Living, the university and all private landlords across Lancaster, into discussing the future of student housing. So whoever is elected, I'll be in contact with you and hope we can do something in the future to solve this growing issue in the city.
Thank you very much. Right, just so everybody knows, we're now going to Simi, then Patrick, and then Steve's final two questions, and then we're calling it a night. Thank you to everybody who's asked questions on Twitter. Sorry, I haven't been able to ask more, but we are just running out of time. So if we could go to Simi now, please.
Thank you. Okay, for the last 20 minutes, I feel like we've had the pleasure of listening to how fabulous you all are and how fabulous you'll all think you'll be. And I think you're fabulous. But I want to know what you think you personally need to work on, even if you have to pick one thing, and how you're going to get around that. And please be quite honest and quite heartfelt. Thanks.
To Matt first, please.
Oh, Jesus, that's hard. I would probably, I'll be completely honest now, compared to some of the other candidates that sat here tonight, I don't have as much, I've not sat on University Senate, I've not sat on other university bodies, I have a limited knowledge which at the moment is based on what I've experienced so far at university and what I can find out from the website from chatting to people. That's something that I'd really like to expand on because I think it's integral to the role of President to get that knowledge when they're operating within the role.
Thank you. And Adam?
Yeah, I'd probably agree with Matt. Not about you, but about me. In that I think, admittedly, we still have 16 odd weeks or whatever until the end of third term. So I'm sure whomever gets president will have a kind of a good period of time where they can gen up and revise and talk to people and really get to grips with certain aspects and processes of LUSU. You know, I feel quite au fait with LUSU as an organisation generally, and with the university as a whole, but there's so much more to know, so many more intricacies, and learning the minutiae of the day-to-day processes of LUSU is definitely something I need to work on, and I look forward to working on.
Thank you. And now to Chris.
I think my biggest flaw is I probably need to learn not to take too much on at any one go. I have a tendency to really push for a lot of things at the same time. I'm involved with a lot of things all in one go. And I think as a president, I think I'm going to have to curtail that a bit, learn to work more as part of my FTO team, and to make sure that I just make sure I'm giving my all to each thing I take on at once, rather than trying to do everything all in one go.
Thank you. And to Joel.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. When I was JCR president, I probably 1 or 2 times let people off more than I should. I think if I was elected president, though, that just couldn't happen. And I'll tell you why that couldn't happen. That's because I'm accountable to 12,000 students. Now, if I don't do something... Sorry, if I don't do something right, I know for a fact there'll be 12,000 angry students knocking on my door, and that's the motivation for me to really do the job as best I can.
Thank you. And now to Patrick, please, if he's still here. Patrick, yay.
Hey guys. Can I just say, Simi, that you stole my question. That was a really good question. But my question comes from a JCR perspective, and I'd like to know if you could say one problem with JCRs and how you're going to solve that.
And that's to Adam first, please.
Well, I think there's a difficulty with the role of JCR, forced one, and taking it, because you are having to balance your studies, and you're likely kind of first or second year, so you're still at times within your role getting to grips with certain aspects of the university. I think the best way to handle that, and I think that is probably partly a large problem within how productive they end up being sometimes, is giving them more support, more guidance, more help, and being able to put structures in place whereby they have more experience because it's been taught to them and handed to them and granted to them, so that tasks become easier to manage and easier to get through, and they can be encouraged to be as productive as possible.
Thank you. And to Chris.
I think one of the problems that we still have with JCRs is we often, I think, certainly when I was on JCR, we often felt like we were working against LUSU rather than with LUSU. And I think there's become this misconception, or certainly when I was a JCR officer, that LUSU was the place that you took your fully formed ideas to get their approval and to get support for them, when LUSU should be much more of a place where you, as a JCR officer, feel that you can take your ideas to get assistance and for them to evolve into something that you're really happy with.
Thank you. And to Joel.
Yeah. First of all, I'd say don't take this as a criticism at all if you're part of a JCR or if you're leading a JCR, but quite often I think the workload is very sort of unbalanced across officers, and I think what's really important is that they all remember they are part of a team, all working together. I think too often some officers are very they've got their eyes set on their own agenda, when really that can be spread across a team to make them much more effective and collaborative.
Thank you. And Matt.
I've got a couple of things that I want to touch on here, so I'm going to have to see how the time goes. The first one that I remember from when I was on JCR 2 years ago, that from chatting to JCRs this week, that is still faced, is this boundary between being a LUSU officer or being a college officer. And it seems to be a thing where it's like on scales. Sometimes it's one, sometimes it's the other. For me, I aim to include, use the JCR officers as representation. They know what's going on in their college. Use them to get some of the issues that then inform what the union does. Because JCR officers are a direct route. A lot of them live with members in the college, but that's one way of finding out what issues are reflected on the student body that we can take forward. The second one, which I've mentioned again when I've been meeting JCRs this week, is finances. The system that the finance office use, I believe, is a little archaic. Simple things like it takes a good couple of weeks to get account updates back, by which time they're completely useless because you spent more money. I'd like to get the system. I'd like to review the system and see if it can be done any easier, even if you can use online banking just to find out how much money is in the account, so you know what you're spending and you can use it in meetings.
That's time. Thank you. Right, final 2 questions then from Steve.
I'm just going to take the opportunity to ask one question, so if you want to give another question to let somebody else have the opportunity to ask, then feel free to. My one question is just directed at Joel. It's no great secret that me and you are quite close friends, and I know that you face quite a lot of criticism for it. One thing I want to ask you is, how can you convince voters that you're an independent person and you won't just be following in my footsteps?
Yeah, it's no surprise. We get on pretty well, but I'd say we do anyway because we work so closely with a lot of things, such as like University Council, sitting on LUSU Council. But what I would say is a lot of the positions I've got myself in, I've been elected onto. In fact, I think all of the positions I've got onto, I've been elected onto by, you know, the average student that I've managed to convince. I've got my own ideas of what I'd like LUSU to be in the next year. I'd say some of them are probably quite different to what your ideas might be. And I'd say that, yeah, we get on great, but we have our differences, our own ideas. And I would absolutely, you know, fundamentally say that I wouldn't use you as like a step up at all. I've asked you to be distant from my campaign, and I think and I hope that is showing.
Thank you. Right, we'll take our final question from the gentleman sat behind Steve. But just as a point, for those of you on Twitter, no, this last question cannot be about Pokemon. Thank you.
You've all talked about representing students and blah, 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 but I'm going to take the music degree again as an example for this. Like, I'm a first-year music student, and I feel massively underrepresented by LUSU. Like, the education VP came to all the meetings with like, blah, 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 and it was all great, but we never heard anything back from LUSU. It just seemed like you turned up and then you went away and sat on your backsides and did bugger all. And Matt touched upon this in his hust, that this emergency general meeting that's been called is a bit of a waste of time, because ourselves as students and Leica have already discussed what we're going to do with our degree. We've discussed modules and everything and all our routes. So it just seems like you've sat back, you've let us sort out our own problems, and now you come in and take all the glory and look like you've done something. So how would you make sure that you act upon things in a timely manner, and so that it doesn't look like that to us students?
Thank you for your question. And can that go to Chris first, please?
Well, first and foremost, I'm sorry that you feel underrepresented by LUSU, and that's obviously a failing on our part. I think one of the main things we've got to look to be is a lot more honest with our students who are looking to us for some sort of leadership over issues like this. We've got to be a lot more honest with our student body over what we're intending to do about things. But in turn, the student, we've got to make sure that we're being proactive, but not just rushing into things. I don't think that the emergency general meeting over the course changes is a pointless act. I think it's still something that we should be looking to do, and I think that the measured response that's been given to that has been reasonably good. I think we just need to be a lot more proactive at an earlier stage and try and prevent issues from this getting out of hand in the future.
Thank you. And to Joel, please.
Yeah, I mean, it is quite an unfortunate situation we find ourselves in. But I'd say that I've tried my absolute best to get the message out about the music department and the preservation of the arts. I'm seconding the motion to the emergency general meeting, which I think will be quite an effective way of getting students together and voicing our opinion in solidarity. You might have seen me running around like a headless chicken in Sugar House on Friday with a big board saying defend the arts at Lancaster, trying to speak to as many students as I possibly could, and I used Sugar House as a forum to do so. I think this is the sort of thing we need to do now to get as many students on board as possible, and I think we have made a couple of failings, but we can't dwell on them. We need to act now and get as many students on board as possible.
Thank you. And to Matt, please.
I think, as I said in my hust, the emergency general meeting could have been of a lot more value earlier on, but as Joel has said, I think it's time to, yes, we've made the failings, we will learn for next time. Hopefully next time we will be there from the start, a bit quicker, being a lot more open, telling all the students what's going on, rather than possibly being a little bit behind the scenes. Moving forward for this right now, I think the emergency general meeting is absolutely the right way to go, because it means we can make a stand on degrees being cut across the board. obviously there are things that are affecting the music degree that might start affecting other degrees, and the student union have been there behind making sure that we're communicating with the departments and making sure that the students' interests in terms of their degrees that they're already enrolled onto are being considered. At the end of the day, this is your students' union and it is here to serve your interests.
10 seconds.
And regardless of this time we may have been a little bit late, but I do believe that the students' union still has a part to play, yes.
Thank you. And finally to Adam.
Well, LUSU, there's an argument to be made that it wasn't just a little bit late, but it was a fair bit late when tackling this issue. But to be fair, the policies of the university for a while have been anti-arts, and the Fight for the Arts campaign seems a little late when a large portion of it's already dead. So I think the Fight for the Arts campaign should have been done a long time ago, before music was ready to be called, because we should be helping shape the future of the university. And if LUSU had been in this early on, you wouldn't be feeling alienated, because LUSU would have been supporting it from the very beginning and supporting you in every step that you want to do to defend your own course. So the earlier it gets involved and the more proactive it is, the more it takes up these issues and fights for them in reality, rather than just a kind of a talk of it, then the better we'll be, all of us.
Thank you very much. Right, that was the last question that was going to be asked, so can we have a round of applause for the presidential candidates, please? Before everyone rushes off, I just have a few thank yous to make. Firstly, to Laurie for running around and doing the questions and just generally being fabulous to work with at the moment. Also to Tim Hamrouge and the events crew for coordinating, putting this whole evening together. Obviously to LA1 TV, Bellrig FM and Scan for broadcasting this whole thing and live blogging all day. Big round of applause for those guys, please. And finally to you guys for sitting through the whole thing, and to everybody who's watching and who's been sending questions through on Twitter all day. Thank you very much. Hope you've had a lovely day, and I'll see you later. Thank you.